Hello and welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Shari Upbin and I'm the host for today. We have something very different for you today. Instead of interviewing a single person, we have an entire panel of gorgeous leading ladies here on the set. Let me make some introductions. Patti Gardner has been performing in South Florida for, may I say, 30 years. She is a Carbonell and Silver Palm recipient. Angie Radosh has worked in practically every theater in South Florida, and she is a triple Carbonell winner and a triple Silver Palm recipient. Are you a triple threat?
Yes, she is. That I'm not.
Karen Stevens can be seen performing all over South Florida. She is a Carbonell winner and a triple recipient of the Silver Palm. She also received a New Times Best Actress Award. You all know her, for she's a founding panelist for Spotlight on the Arts. Fern Katz also works for various theaters here in South Florida and is also the vice president and the treasurer for ACT of Davie, a community theater. She is also a Remy recipient. We have quite the forum of female power, so let's get into it. Okay, I'd like to welcome you all. I have worked with most of you. I know you all, respect you and love you, and you're the greatest, and this couldn't be better. Now, we're going to mention a word called longevity, whatever that means. And it seems to be the topic at hand. So, as actresses, what do we do to keep going and going? Because, you know, we don't know when we're going to be called for the part or we have to audition for the part. What do you do on a daily basis? And feel free just to jump in and talk about yourselves. Patti, why don't you get started?
Okay, what do I do? Well, I stay involved. I go to a lot of theater, whether it's to support a fellow actor or actress, or to see a play I've never seen before, or to go to a theater that I've never been to before. It's important for me to just stay connected to what's happening regionally. Mm-hmm. For myself personally.
Yeah, what about like the gym? Do you work out like mad?
Really? You're going to ask me that? Do I go to the gym? I actually just started back to the gym, but I'm not the most disciplined with diet or exercise or anything like that, no. I read a lot. I read a lot of plays. I stay connected to the theater. I read the Arts and Leisure section of the Times.
Of the New York Times every day. How about you, Fern? What do you do? I know you work out.
Yes, I do. I'm a gym rat, so I do work out a lot. And as far as theater, I like to read a lot of scripts. I like to go to theater and watch other actresses and see what they do so well and try to remember and learn from everybody, whether I think it's good or bad. If it's bad, something to stay away from.
Well, the thing is, you know, as actresses, do you feel like it's your job to keep your mind,
Absolutely.
Body, and spirit?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We refer to this as the instrument. This is what we bring to every audition and every performance, and there's an incredible responsibility in keeping it ready for that audition or a performance. And I find that, you know, because we don't have understudies, very few theaters down here have understudies, right. So you know, when you wake up in the morning and you want to be sure everything is working because you have a matinee that afternoon. So it does involve taking care of yourself, going to the gym and not eating certain foods if you have to sing. So, because this is what we have, you know, it isn't like picking up a violin and playing it. You have to.
So do you find it a little bit of a chore? Like you need to be, as we say, camera ready all the time? How do you feel about that, Karen?
It can be a bit of a chore if you're in survival mode, you know, which so many of us are. We have to find jobs outside the theater to sustain ourselves and to support ourselves. I'm single. I pay all of my bills by myself.
Good for you.
Well, yeah, good for me, but it's also a bit of a hardship because when you're you know, shouldering all of the weight, it's hard to fit in the things sometimes that you need to do to maintain. I'm also a gym rat. Inconsistently though, sometimes I'll, you know, be on a rant, you know, in the gym and I'm a beast, and then there are times when I just can't bring myself to go. So, you know, it just depends, I think, on our state of mind at a particular time. And it's just like everything in life, you know, there are ebbs and tides, you know, you know, we have highs and lows. So, you know, when we're riding that high and everything's clicking, it's great. You know, it's the times when we're kind of in the valley where we have to kind of hold on a little tighter.
Well, this is, you know, you had mentioned the word instrument, and that's what we call ourselves. We are the instrument. So where a musician would practice, whether you like it or not. I mean, we all know musicians, you must practice the piano, you must practice your guitar, your bass, or your violin. How do we practice?
Well, I think like Patti and Fern both said, you go to the theater and you're in that element and watching good acting or bad acting and learning from it. Yeah. I think that's essential, and I'm always surprised at how many other actors don't go to the theater, don't go to see theater, because that's essential to our work, and it keeps you it keeps you involved. Right.
So do you think we have to have a positive, as much as we can, a positive attitude more than the average person?
I would, oh, excuse me.
No, go on, jump in.
I would say not only a positive attitude, but a passion. And I find that, especially in this stage of my life, to have something that I have such a passion about. I always say if I wasn't involved in acting, I would be, you know, belong to book clubs and be playing cards or mahjong, but those would be things to do. This is a passion, and I think when you have that passion, you're just very lucky, and that keeps you involved.
That's the especially word, when you're not working.
That's what we're talking
the
about.
Part, because when you're not working, in order to stay connected, you know, and to feel like you're still part of it, that's why I try to go to as much as possible to see and work on things. I work on my voice.
How do you do that?
Well, if I know in the future I'm going to be doing a musical, I'm one of those people that I need to get a jump on the music. I don't read music, I don't read it well, and I will hook up with a musical director and I will put my things, I'll record what I need to know in advance, so that I'm not walking into the first day of rehearsal, even if it's months away, without having some knowledge.
So do you take singing lessons and voice lessons as a rule, or just when you're getting a part, or do you need to do this all the time?
Well, historically and generally, as a rule, you know, actors and singers and dancers are always supposed to be taking class. You know, if we're working a lot, sometimes we don't get to do that. Right. Being on stage is our class.
Isn't that great?
Working with a director is our class. You know, actually being in a musical and singing is our class. Being a dance production or dancing on stage in a musical is our class. So if you're working consistently, you know, you're always growing, because you're always learning from the person who's directing you or from the people who you're working with. But if you're not working, generally, you know, actors and dancers and singers are advised to take class, you know, if you can afford it, you know.
Are there enough classes here? And where are they?
I don't think there are. No. You know, and when I first got down here, I've been here about 23 years, there were a lot of staged readings, there were workshops. There doesn't seem to be a lot of that, because that's a great way to meet people, to work with people, and to have your work seen. But staged readings aren't done much anymore. And
why is that?
I don't know.
Probably because it's unaffordable. There probably aren't too many theaters that can do that.
This is a very interesting point. So perhaps, because I would love for this to be some kind of a learning experience for all of us, and for our viewers, and for new actresses, and those of us who've been in the business, you know, for a long time. Should we create our own work? I mean, I know you're working a lot, so it's kind of like, could we plan for that?
Well, just on the subject of stage readings, it depends on the theater, because there are a lot of theaters that are developing new work, and they do a lot of stage readings. So you can't say that there's none of that happening. There is happening, but it just depends on the theater. I created a show for myself a while ago because I wasn't working a lot, and I felt like I had something to say, so I wrote and choreographed and produced a one-woman show. And there are a lot of actors and actresses and performers who do that.
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from a director who said, when you're not in a show, have something of your own that you're creating.
Wonderful.
And I just recently did my one-woman show.
Right.
It's very scary, but it's also a wonderful focus in between shows. And it does force you, because mine's with music, it does force me to vocalize a lot, even if I'm not doing a musical at the time.
So would you call this self-producing? Did this cost you your own money
you know,
to do this?
Luckily, I did several performances of it, so I didn't self-produce, but I may have to do that in order to get it seen, you know, but it's, to answer your question, it was just a wonderful way for me to keep focused on my work and on my instrument, getting up in the morning thinking, okay, I better vocalize today and sit down and do a little bit of writing.
So we always have to be ready, one way or the other.
Yes.
Either by going to see shows, taking care of ourselves, and looking. Now, let's talk about directors. And I'm going to ask the elephant in the room. And that is, do you prefer working with women directors? Do you find that there's a difference working with women directors? Let's talk a little bit, have a dialogue, whether there is a difference or maybe not. Maybe the elephant will walk out of the back door.
Yeah. Am I the elephant now?
You're the elephant now, the pretty elephant.
I think, well, I think that it really depends on the piece. There are certain pieces that I've worked on that maybe I would say, kind of wish I had a female director for maybe my role.
Why?
You know, I'd like some personal insight.
There you go.
You know, I'm not afraid to argue, battle sometimes with a director if I feel strongly about something, but I'm also a piece of the puzzle. And I think some directors, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But I very often will feel that it has to do with the piece that you're working on. And there are certain directors that I've worked with that I could never imagine any other person directing, man or woman. So, that's
What do you think, Karen? Do you think there's a difference, or? As a director, I sometimes feel that a woman is better for that particular piece. Yeah. Has it affected you at any time? We can all jump in.
I think I've had more male directors than I've had female directors.
And I wonder why that is.
There are more.
Thank
There
you.
are more, right,
I can count on my
exactly.
hand the number of female directors that have directed me in my career.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which says something, and they've all been wonderful. Maybe 5 or 6 that have all been wonderful.
Says a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and when I think of all the plays I've done, I've been lucky. I've worked a lot. Very few female directors. I've never had that question before. I've never thought about it.
I think about it all the time.
And it's really, it's enlightening.
And we wonder why.
Well, I've had both. I've had the pleasure of having being directed by Shari, but also more male directors. And I think it depends on the person. There are some directors that I've learned a lot from, a lot of positive things, and other, you know, and some directors that will micromanage you and, you know, first put this leg out and then that leg out, and some that allow you, you know, creativity. So I think a lot depends for me on the director.
Yeah.
Well, one of the good things is, you know, in the longevity is that as actresses, you kind of, you study your role, you know what needs to come out, and if you're not getting it from the director, be it male or female, you said you're vocal enough to be able to, you know, to guide. And isn't that great that when you're in that place, and I think you all are in your career, where, well, it's a question. Do you feel much more, this is not a leading question, do you feel more confident now than you did when you started as far as working with directors?
Oh, yeah.
Concerned?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And there are some directors, I think, that really welcome that. There are others that don't necessarily welcome, you know, the battle.
Yes.
And I think the longer you're around and the more people you work with, you get to know
Yes.
how and to
They all have a
circumvent some
different
of those
style.
issues.
They all have a different style, and you just, you know who you're working with,
Yeah.
and you usually can tell right away. And yeah.
I find also that, you know, it's very nice when you work with a director that respects your years of experience. It's very difficult going into a production where you have to pretend to be a novice. And, you know, we bring a lot of experience to the table. We've been doing this for a long time. And I don't want to pretend to, like I don't know what I'm doing, just to satisfy your ego. You know?
Those days are gone.
Yeah, you know, and I'm not thinking about anyone in particular. I'm just saying in general, sometimes I feel like I have to pretend that, you know, I don't know anything, and I'm not that person.
We know
You need to be the good student, to be the
Yes, to be
good
the good
actress.
student,
Yes, well, like, tell me what you think.
Obedient.
And I think we can skip a lot of those steps now. I mean, we will give the director their due.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's easy just to get down to the nitty-gritty and let's just do it.
Yeah, I
And
mean, because
start.
we all have instincts. We all, you know how to get at what we're looking for, and if we can't, then, you know, we have the director there to help guide us, and, you know, but you know, we you know.
Speaking of directors and actors, what about parts? Do you feel that you are at this stage being stereotyped into certain roles, or in your career right now, how do you feel about the roles that you're taking, being offered?
Oh, I feel that's a hard question, but let me try to answer it. I feel I've had a wonderful variety of roles. Of course, we always want what we can't have. I'll see a plays being cast, and I think, oh, I'd love to try something different, but I'm called in for a role that people generally think of me as.
Does that bother you? Or would you like to?
Yeah, a job is a job. I'm thrilled to be called in the first place, but it'd be nice to do something different. I feel like we always have to surprise people, because we're pretty much established down here, and people know what we can do. And so I did a speaking elephant once, where I played an elephant, and it was such a challenge.
She was the elephant in the room.
It was the elephant in the room, and it was such a different kind of role, and I surprised people. They didn't know I could do something so physical and so different from doing, usually before that I would play, you know, a queen or a strong, you know,
Tall.
woman. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it's very easy to.
How about you, Fern? Do you feel like you're being typecast now, or do you have some surprises?
I think I've been kind of lucky. I mean, considering my age, obviously, I'm of a certain age, and I'm always
we
happy
don't know
when
what
I
that
get to
is.
the end of the script, and I'm still alive. That's always a thrill. You know, I've done both drama and comedy, and I don't know that there's been anything particularly out of the box, although I think the last one I did kind of like when I was, can I name?
Of course.
Well, I was like Nana on 37 postcards. I mean, that was kind of like totally out of the box. So I think I've been kind of lucky in getting both drama and comedy.
So does that stop you from going out for any role that you want? Do you think, well, they're not gonna, or do you just go out and try for it?
I question myself very often for the things that I'll go out for that I think maybe the director would not see me as. But we're also changing, we're aging. So you're not stuck in a certain place, you know. You do move on, hopefully in years, and then I think I'm eligible for this role now. I think maybe somebody would see me in this role now. There are many that have passed by that I am no longer right for.
When you were very young, did you ever do those parts where they aged you?
Yes. You draw in the line.
Yes. I remember that in Prisoner of Second Avenue. I did a part, and they put me in a wig, and they made lines, and I had seen a tape of it, and oh my Lord. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I recently played one of the Delaney sisters where I had to age a 103-year-old. So even at this age, there's still room to age, which is good.
That is good.
Yeah, but I in the last few years, I've had a chance to play Lady Bracknell and the importance of being earnest.
That was a chance. That was wonderful.
That was one in a once in a lifetime. Because when would I ever be able to play that part? And so it takes. And I also played Van Helsing in Dracula. So, but when it takes artistic directors or directors who are willing to think outside of the box with these things, you know.
Yes.
There was one thing I just wanted to say, and I think it has to do with regional theater and the familiarity that we all have with directors and actors, that they know pretty much where you are in life, whether you have grandchildren or whatever. And so sometimes that can work for you and against you, because that information allows them to, well, I guess, yeah, she must be, or not. You know, maybe if I went into a theater to audition for someone who doesn't know anything about me, maybe they would see me in a completely different way, no preconceived notion, and I have a more of a
well, where do we stand now in South Florida? Are we in the same, where we know the directors and we know the theaters? I mean, are there enough new venues, new directors to be able to give, we're talking South Florida right now. And so how do you feel about that? Would things be different in New York for you, do you think?
No.
Do you feel safe here? That do directors call you for parts?
Yes.
sometimes.
More than, I mean, we could say it. Yeah, because
Yes,
I'm,
which is wonderful.
but you've earned it.
It's wonderful when you get that phone call, and it's, you know, not wonderful when you don't, and you see that somebody's been cast, and you think, oh, I wish I'd had a chance to even audition for it. So it's a
now, because you're all seasoned and brilliant, and I just love every one of you, and I feel so honored to be with you, because this is where it's at. You know, you've worked hard, and you've earned it. You've earned it, really, throughout the years. What advice would you give for a new actress coming in? Maybe the next show I'm going to ask, what advice would you give your younger self? But maybe I'll ask that. What advice would you give the young Fern coming up?
Don't be afraid to get out of the box. When we first started Actors Community Theater, I thought, well, that's the only theater I'm going to perform in, because I was safe. It was home. And then, of course, we started doing productions where obviously you're not right for every role, and you don't grow an audience by, you know, having the same performers.
So did you feel you held yourself back?
I held myself back until I finally said, hey, this is getting boring. I want to act. And I started auditioning, and it was like very frightening, but you've got to get out of the box. You really have to
push yourself out of the box.
Push yourself out of the box.
How about you, Karen? How do you feel about that? Or anybody could just jump in. What advice would you give your younger self, if any?
Just to stay on the path that stay true to what I dreamed. You know, I veered off the path, and not to say that I'm not satisfied with my life now, because I don't know that I would have gotten to work more in New York than I've worked down here. There are a lot of out-of-work actors in New York. There are people who don't get to work, you know. But stay on the path as far as my goals, and because I also let fear sidetrack me.
And how about you? How about you?
Oh, I would say it's never too late. I was out of the business for about 15, 20 years and came back to it in South Florida. And it opened up new doors, and I never thought I'd be back on
And
the
it's never
stage.
too late.
And it's never too late.
How about you, Patti?
Well, I think I would tell my younger self to enjoy and appreciate what I was at the time.
When you see those pictures,
And
right?
not feel, so ready to beat myself up for not looking a certain way or being a certain way, because then 20 years later, you're going to think, wow, I was terrific then. Why didn't I understand that? So that's what.
But I think the thing that we all have in common, and we mentioned this at the very beginning, is we have passion.
Yeah.
And I don't think any one of us are closing the door on the next part, the next role. And I just kept on thinking, you know, as a producer, I was an actress, I got out of the business because I couldn't stand auditioning anymore. I was thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be great to find a vehicle for all of you? It's like just the perfect cast.
Yeah.
And if you have any, you know, you should write to the producers and write to the directors. You know, this has been quite a half hour. I feel like we could just do actually another half hour, and I would like to do another half hour. I want to thank all of our leading ladies who have enlightened us today, and I want to thank you for joining us on Spotlight on the Arts. Now, we are a community program, so we invite you to participate. Drop us a line. Let us know how we are doing. Let us know how we did today. You can email us at spotlightonthearts@browardschools.com. And make sure that you tune in next week for another episode of Spotlight on the Arts. And as our mentor Iris Acker used to say, and let's all say this together, let's go to the theater. Thank you.